Niantic has just dropped a bunch of Halo Flashpoint news, and let's discuss it. So, in the past 2 days, if you missed it and been living under a rock, Mantic did two live streams, one about painting Halo Flashpoint miniatures with Army Painter, and the other was demoing some gameplay. In both, they answered a bunch of questions, and we're going to go over that Q&A first, and then we're going to go over some gameplay mechanics that we just learned, that we haven't learned before. So let's get into the Q&A. So one of the first things that someone asked and they discussed is how long Mantic has been in partnerships with Microsoft trying to get this going. Technically, they haven't been in partnership with Microsoft for 7 to 8 years, but Ronnie says that he pitched it about 7 or 8 years ago, trying to get Microsoft into it. They didn't buy in, the technology wasn't there, and Ronnie's okay with that because now the technology is there. Now they can really like push it. You know, Halo Infinite being a free-to-play game has a certain audience, and now that the TV show's out, really built traction on it, getting a lot more players involved and excited about it. Okay, and let's talk about the miniatures now. So the miniatures, a lot of people had questions about. First off, if the Spartan miniatures in the set is going to be sold separately to where you can buy them outside of just buying this Recon or the Spartan edition. And as of right now, it sounded like they had no plans on selling those separately. You might as well just get all the Spartans. Everyone wants to play as a Spartan anyway, right? So just getting that box set, it would actually, with buying the rules and buying the mat and buying the models, it'd probably equate to being around the price of a Recon edition or a Spartan edition anyway, once you throw in the elites too. So it's almost just best to just buy the whole package. The models themselves are going to be on 32 millimeter bases, which people asked, and how tall they are. They didn't actually specifically say how tall they are because I'm assuming 3D printing, they don't want people, 3D printing anything, getting that out there. But they did describe it as they kind of had a few different models set up and they kind of eyeballed it and said, yes, that's how big a Spartan should be. And the next thing they discussed as far as models go is points. When are points coming? We have these boxes where the golden rule is 4. You have 4 per team. They said points aren't going to come out for another few months. They really want people to learn the game, ease up into it, and that's fantastic because if you just release a whole bunch of stuff all at once, it's overwhelming. You can't decide on a faction. You're learning the game rules and the factions at the same time, and then your opponent stuff. It just gets way too convoluted. It's really nice having these time release. It builds the hype up, and you're able to learn along the way. Once you learn all the core mechanics, then they're going to bring out the new phases of factions and Spartans to add to your collection. And that begs the question, how many spots is Master Chief going to take? Master Chief is actually going to take 2 of your Spartan spots when you're creating a Spartan team. So when we're thinking about heroes in the future, the Arbiter, probably 2 spots. If they make a Tartarus, Atriox, any of the other brute heroes, probably 2 spots. Atriox should probably be a whole fire team in itself. Let's talk about competitive play and organized play. So big news on this front, they've actually created an app that they've teased that we're probably not supposed to know about right now that is actually going to let you track other people locally around you and see how well they're doing if they're on the app. So one, it's a really great way to get people and play with them, but also it makes it organized play and tournament play even better and more supported. Now, the competitive play isn't something that's in works currently, but they do want to do it. They want the game to be big enough to where they can do competitive play at Gen Cons and Adepticons and stuff like that. But right now, they're just really, really focusing on OP. And their plans with organized play is to actually give out prizes for just playing. It doesn't sound like necessarily winning, but just playing, and they're starting with the tokens. So the really nice tokens, I'm assuming the shield tokens, the activation tokens, hopefully the weapon tokens, to even just get some nice things just for playing games with, like-minded people is going to be really fun and a good reason to play with other people. And also you're going to be able to buy those separately. So if you want to host your own tournament at your local game store or amongst your friends, you can buy the tournament package. And they also mentioned a few things about terrain that people ask. One, the cardboard terrain that is included in the Spartan and the Recon edition. Are we going to get more terrain like that in the cardboard, style? And the answer is yes. We are going, I believe it's Acid House Games, it's Acid something games, or terrain that makes this terrain for them. And they said that yes, they're going to be actually either bringing out this terrain to purchase separately or new terrain in that cardboard format. Which begs the question, what about terrain crate? What about some other more hardier terrains? They very, very strongly tease that there's going to be banished terrain in the future. Hopefully it doesn't stop with the banish. Hopefully there's some Forerunner. Hopefully there's some UNSC. But they're already thinking about this, and that is just great. All right, let's talk about the questions about game modes, then we'll get into new game mechanics. So Strongholds is what they showed off in the live stream. Now, Strongholds in Halo Flashpoint is going to have 3 objectives, one on opposite sides of the board and one in the middle. Now, I'm assuming these are going to change depending on what scenarios you're playing in the book, but as far as the one that they showed, this is how it went. The objective markers on either side of the board were worth 4 points, and the one in the center was worth 2. You're obviously scoring these points by staying on these objectives. It wasn't clear whether you get points after the round or in the beginning of the round, the top of the round, but it's probably top of the round. Honestly, I don't even know. We'll have to wait and find out. But yeah, there's tons of game modes already included, like CTF and Oddball, and I know Oddball specifically is changing as well in the included in the Spartan edition. But they did talk about game modes that will come in the future, and that is very exciting. They didn't specify which ones, but they said they already have plans to release more game modes. One of them, unfortunately, is not solo play as of right now. So solo play was a big question. I know I'm going to make my own version of Halo Firefight, the Horde mode that Halo has, but they don't have anything official in the works because then you have to get narrative involved, and they want to make sure they have a solid game first and they get a lot of people in. Someone else also asked about big team battle. Well, technically you could just put 2 boards together, add your terrain, have an 8v8 and call it big team battle, but officially, it's not announced, but it came from the horse's mouth that you can do that. And lastly, when they were talking about big team battles, someone asked about the Warthog. Can't have a Halo game without the Warthog, so they said as long as this game is very successful, they're thinking about expanding it to larger. They're a big, large game type of company. Ronnie was talking about how he loves the massive games. And a side note on that is Ronnie actually said that they've talked to Microsoft and they're kind of waiting on a sign-off whether they can make it larger scale. So that is kind of exciting. They're already talking about it. He basically said in the stream, if they say yes, then we're moving forward with it. But they talked about a 15 to 18 month period that they already have planned for releases. So I wouldn't expect anything after that, honestly, and that's okay. Give us that skirmish game. Give us 3 years of a great skirmish game, and then make it bigger. Now let's talk about new game mechanics that haven't been released before. A lot of people have been saying that this is their first tabletop game that they're ever going to be playing, and Mantic has thought of that. The mat that comes with both the Spartan Edition and the Recon Edition, if you flip it over, it's a smaller mat with all the keywords on there, all the keywords, all the rules. You have 2 Spartan cards on there as well to make it very, very easy. So if this is your first time playing a tabletop game, and this game specifically, you'll want to flip over that mat just to familiarize yourself with the rules and have them there and handy, which is an ingenious idea. It's really going to get a lot of new people in. And when you start your game, after you set up all your minis, you're actually going to have item tokens that you place around the map. And these item tokens include grenades, including plasma grenades, drop walls, overshields, hard light shields, extra ammo, which gives you another dice when you're shooting, and speed boost equipment, which gives you another movement. Now the speed boost, they didn't call it a speed boost, but one of the players had equipment that gave them an extra movement. I'm assuming that's speed boost, that's what it's called in Halo anyway. So this is really exciting because you can kind of customize your playing experience. These are the kind of things that really make the gameplay interesting and different every single time you play. And then they talked about command dice, which you're going to roll 3 of them at the beginning of every round. Now each side of the die, which has its own picture on it, is associated with a certain rule that you can use one time during your round. You'll have to re-roll every round, and you'll have to get new command dice every round, so you might as well spend it. Now I'll bring up a photo of each side of the dice and explain it. Now this one is the special order. Now the special order is really exciting to me because each faction has their own special order that's unique to them. Spartans have it where if enemies come in close combat with them, they're allowed to shoot. Now they also talked about how leaders are going to have their own special unique orders. So Master Chief has his own special unique order that we don't even know about yet. That's going to be different than the Spartans. I'm sure if they make an Arbiter in the future or an Atriox in the future, those are going to have their own special orders as well. But that command die will give you the special order. Now the arrow with the one of it is going to let you move one extra cube per turn. The two swords are going to let you fight in close combat again. The D8 symbol, which looks kind of like a weird, rhombus diamond, is going to give you an extra die to put in your pool when you're shooting or fighting. Explosion is going to get you an extra shooting, so you can shoot twice with the same guy. And the Spartan helmet is going to let you activate a second Spartan in a row. Now, it will take up that Spartan's activation, so they won't be able to move again or shoot again that turn, but it lets you double up on Spartans a turn. Another thing they talked about is weapon spawning. Power weapons don't just start on the map. You actually roll your dice, and depending on what your dice says, is the spot in which it comes in at, and you pick randomly what power weapon comes in. In the demo, they had all the power weapons face down, and they would randomly draw one and place it depending on whatever they rolled. That's really, really cool, and for me, these are the reasons why it feels less like the video game and more like the tabletop game. We want more unique situations like that, and that really gets me excited. Now let's talk about the Deadeye. The Deadeye was shown off quite a lot in this gameplay video. He has a longer range weapon, which is the DMR, which is an advantage in itself. He has the Deadeye rule, which causes 2 damage instead of 1 damage when you inflict it. And they have a special rule that gets him an extra shot while shooting. And they have the keyword optics, which lets them explode on 7s and 8s. 7s and 8s, they can roll another die and see if they hit their target, which is crazy. Plus you pair that with a command dice that lets you shoot twice. It's insane. This is definitely going to be an auto-include when you have your 8 different Spartans to choose from and you can only choose 4. You're going to want to take a Deadeye with exploding 7s and 8s, longer range, double damage. This is a no-brainer. The Deadeye is going to be one of the more popular ones in the beginning of this game coming out. Let's end it off with talking about some combat. Now we know when you charge into another model and you go in for melee damage, you're going to add 2 to your dice pool. But what we didn't know, if they've already been injured, we add another dice to the dice pool. Melee is going to be insane in this game. It's going to be so strong, but that's kind of like how Halo is. I can't even imagine what the gravity hammer is going to be like. And speaking of combat, when 2 Spartans are engaged in combat in the same square and another Spartan wants to shoot one of those Spartans, they can, but at a penalty. It's the only time in the game when you're actually getting penalties and you subtract 2 from your shots. But the Deadeye, probably one of the best models, has extra shots. If you're higher up, you do get extra shots, and clear shots, you get extra shots. So there's a lot of ways to stack that to where shooting in combat can be particularly potent. And then say you want to leave combat. You can actually leave combat, but you take attack of opportunity, if you're familiar with D&D. Basically, when you leave, the opposing Spartan will be able to make a combat move against you. So they can fight you before you leave. So it's kind of high risk, high reward. And they did talk about passing your turn if you want to. If you have a lower model count than your opponent, then you can pass your turn. Meaning you can go once, your opponent goes once. You don't have to go, your opponent can go, you don't have to go. Your opponent goes, then you can go, and then your opponent goes if you only have 2 models left. This is really nice. There's definitely some tactics you can implement in this, especially with spawning, because when you spawn back at that specific Spartan's next activation. So not in the beginning of the turn, it's literally just the next activation. So if someone kills your unit or your model before you've activated that round, then he comes in that same round because it's his next activation, and you're activating him next to come in. Now, they've stated previously that you only get 1 action when you come in. So that's a move action or shoot action, so you could still move or shoot. And I think that's it. I'll include the videos in the description. There's a lot more different tidbits that you can really, dive into deep, and you can see some of that in-game footage. There wasn't a lot of it. It was really mainly a question and answer and giving us some more details. But anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe and like and comment on this. We want to spread the word about Halo Flashpoint. There's a lot of people engaged in it. But I really appreciate you guys, sticking around this long. We'll see you next time.